Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Competitive Wisconsin Be Bold 4 Pre-Action Accelerator Briefing on Wisconsin's need for a more competitive, sustainable, and effective workforce recruitment and retention strategy. That's a lot of words, gentlemen, but I'll tell you, it's a lot of words for a really, really big challenge. We have with us today a star-studded panel of experts to talk about this challenge we face in Wisconsin. Let's start by introducing ourselves. Jim, why don't you go first?
I'm Jim Wood. I'm chairman of Wood Communications Group, and I serve as strategic counsel to Competitive Wisconsin, Inc.
I'm Darren Bulow. I'm a principal at Deloitte Consulting out of Chicago. Longtime fan of Wisconsin, originally born and raised in the state, and have helped Wisconsin evaluate a number of economic development issues.
And I'm Dale Knapp. I'm the Director of Research for the Wisconsin Counties Association and the Director of Forward Analytics. I've spent 18 years with the Wisconsin Taxpayers Alliance studying Wisconsin's economy, and the last year and a half was studying demographics, et cetera, and the impact on the state.
We've got a lot of intellect and insight and experience at this table, but let's start, Jim. Walk us through the challenge we're facing and why it is such an urgent issue today.
Okay, appreciate that. We don't have the workers we need we have a healthy economy right now in the state of Wisconsin, but our companies, in terms of their capacity to grow, are finding themselves limited because they can't get the workers they need. So that's a major piece of the equation that makes it urgent. But let me show you our population by age, okay? From 2005 to 2017. So the 20 to 34, which is your workforce feeder group population, okay? That line was flat, absolutely flat for the last 12 years. It's not getting any better as it goes forward, okay? We can't make up things like this. That's simply going on. Take a look at the green line, okay? The green line is the 35 to 54 years. We care about that line because that's your management class. Those are people who have been in the job for a while. They've got skill sets that they are part of that team. And our green line is going down. Okay, it's not even flat. It's going down. That's a danger. The other piece of the danger, this is the pattern, okay, if you will, is the gold line, which is the 55 to 74 group, and it's going up. Okay, that is not the model you want to see in your population. Now, if you take a look at that, okay, remember that you had 605,000 workers over 55 in 2015. In May of 2019, the state of Wisconsin had in excess of 100,000 job openings posted on its job site, okay? You simply can't look at these numbers and say, we got plenty of people, because we don't, all right? Now, take a look at our numbers compared to Iowa, Minnesota, and Michigan. Right, and what do you see? What you see is Iowa has a similar pattern, not quite as pronounced as ours, but they had a smaller workforce. Minnesota managed to do better during that past 10, 12-year period of time. Their green line edged up a bit, okay, went up considerably between 2005 and 2010, and it's sustained itself. Their blue line, however, has gone flat. And what's saving them at the moment is that they managed to handle retirement better in terms of their aging population. So they've had the green line has been replacing the aging population as there's been retirement going on. That pattern will probably not continue. Michigan has been hemorrhaging, however, over that last decade of period. So you can see the urgency in terms of our immediate area here, but think about this. We talk about states where everybody wants to go. Right? Everybody wants to go to Colorado so they can go skiing. Right? Everybody wants to go to Arizona because the sun shines out there. And everybody wants to go to North Carolina because the Golden Triangle's there. We've been hearing about it for 50 years. Right? Well, take a look at Colorado, North Carolina, and Arizona. And what you can see is the pattern is emerging, that same pattern. Aging population, flattening feeder line, okay, and a wavering management line, okay? Those are problems that means the very states that are already beating us in terms of competition for workers are going to be even more insistent and have to be doing something about it.
Well, let me ask, Dale, as the top research mind in the state of Wisconsin, what do you make of this? You've studied the demographics issue for quite frankly, for years.
Yeah, and I think Jim laid out the challenge very well. I would argue that it's probably worse than what we think, given recent migration trends, et cetera. So we do have to do something significant, and I think that's where we're headed with this is get out in front of this. So a big, bold package like that, I think, has a chance to be successful and solve some of the challenges we're going to face.
Well, Dale, you've done some work on where the numbers are of our future workers. Where are the young people of today are our workers of tomorrow?
Yes.
What's happening with those numbers?
Well, that's where I'm saying I think the challenge is even worse than we're looking at. With birth rates at historic lows to some degree, migration of young families now turning negative. Wisconsin actually has 43,000 fewer 0 to 9-year-olds than they did in 2010. 25,000 fewer children 10 to 18. That's our workforce going forward. So, we're facing a really significant demographic challenge, not just with the baby boomers retiring, but with shrinking numbers of young people coming through to the workforce.
We're not producing enough children.
We're not producing enough.
We're not attracting enough
and
families.
We're not attracting enough families. That's right.
We're putting our businesses in peril tomorrow who need these people as their number one resource for private sector profit.
And that's where bringing young families to the state has a dual purpose. One, it solves that problem now. It solves that, or it helps solve that workforce problem now. And as they bring children with them, it helps solve that longer term problem.
It seems to me, Jim, what the message, the message is pretty clear. Whether you're Wisconsin today, or whether you're in some very attractive business climate today in Colorado or North Carolina or Arizona, unless you look out into the future, trouble's on the horizon. It is those areas, those states, those geographic regions that are able to do some visioning and understand what the future holds that can maybe take action today to create a better future.
I think that's absolutely right, and as Darren will show you in just a minute, there's a pathology again here, and so the Midwestern states and the Northeastern states have had the most trouble up to this point in time. They took the hardest hit for all sorts of reasons during the Great Recession, and so they've stepped out and started to do stuff. But what we're going to see is it's going to sweep across the country, and we need to get ready now before it gets ahead of us. So let me, again, the history on this is we went through all of that in terms of figuring out what the shortages looked like, et cetera, and then went to our partner Deloitte and said, okay, we need to understand what the competition's doing. What does that look like in terms of best practices? So the first thing we asked Darren and his team to do was to take a look at it, and I'd suggest we let Darren talk to us a little bit about what he's...
Deloitte, I mean, one of the most respected consulting firms and with a lot of insight in the country. Fortunately, you spent a little time with us. So, Darren, what did you find?
Yeah, Mark, so the discussion of shortages in the talent and workforce, it is a national issue, of course. A lot of states are grappling with these kinds of challenges. When we think about how businesses make location decisions about where to expand and where to deploy, talent is their number one factor that they think about. And when we think about companies that are looking for STEM talent, they're looking for experienced skills, they just can't find the numbers of people that they need. So this is a national problem. This is a national conversation around workforce shortage. And what we're seeing in the economic development world is a shift from traditional incentives geared towards businesses toward incentives that are also now emerging to try to attract workers. So these are inducements to get people to move, get people to enter the state and take on employment. If we think back to how companies evaluate locations from a talent perspective, they're really looking at three legs of a stool. What's the talent that's there now? What's the flow of the talent that I need coming out of colleges and universities? And is this a place where people are moving to in droves?
So, Darren, it almost it almost seems like the paradigm has shifted. It used to be, at least when I came out of high school and maybe even college, you went to where a job was, and companies decided where to locate them based on a whole host of factors. But you seem to be implying that in today's world, our new millennium economy, oil, water, steel, paper, pulp, are not necessarily the number one resources for private sector profit, but instead it might be smart young talent. And in that case, businesses are looking to determine where is this talent, which will be my resource for private sector profit.
It is very true. What has shifted is that more and more companies view themselves as technology companies, and they need higher and higher skills. Companies that traditionally have been in manufacturing or they've traditionally been in services, they are trying to make that pivot to be technology companies. So the demand for STEM workers, for IT workers, for tech workers has never been greater, and it's increasing every year. Combined with the fact that the American worker has never been less mobile than they are today. So we are seeing people that are deciding to stay where they are at this slightly ever increasing percentage and try to and find jobs where they're located now. So it becomes harder and harder for an employer just based on the job alone to get people to pick up sticks and move.
That's an interesting insight, because it's somewhat counterintuitive. You would think in today's world where it's so easy to relocate, people would be very mobile. But apparently, people are finding places where they find attractive to them and staying.
It does suggest that Wisconsin has an advantage that we sometimes don't think about.
And all of those trends combined with the cloud and technology work being able to be done at home or with the mobile workforce, more and more people are making a decision either to move to the city or stay in the community in which they are to find employment. The hot job market right now. So all of this to say that more and more states have implemented, and communities have implemented incentives directed at trying to attract people to move in. If we think about and we'll talk about this I think in a few minutes, the benefits of attracting a knowledge worker or a highly technical skilled worker to a location, think about the years of economic impact and tax revenues and benefits that spin off from that activity. That's what this is about. These types of incentives that states are offering around the country run a gamut of debt relief, low interest mortgage, tuition assistance and payback, cash bounties, low interest loans, a whole host of different techniques and tools that states, communities, counties are using to try to attract the worker that they need to fill these jobs.
Is that kind of financial incentive around the country, is it sustainable long term?
It's a good question. It's still somewhat early days. We're in the early years of this pivot. We've been predicting this kind of pivot to attract workers more than jobs for a number of years, and we're starting to see it happen. What we have seen in the programs that are out there is they're getting traction.
There's a weaving together of the priority recruitment tools. So debt management, housing, childhood development, quality of life kinds of stuff. And when you talk about the word sustainable, we'll come back to that a little bit more. The issue of sustainability is one, what's driving your revenue stream, but the other is how well are you integrated so that when you do something that's helpful in housing, you're actually helping the tax base in the community, that you're actually impacting retention rates, that you're having some impact on funding for schools and on across the board. So looking at that kind of stuff is important.
So, Darren, you said, and we have 26 examples around the country that you've looked at. Is anyone doing anything remotely close to this? Or are they kind of locked into the old school of let me see what kind of financial incentive I can give someone for a house or education or a job? This is quite different.
This really is different. It's different in terms of value to the employee. It's more than the average value. The typical programs that we're seeing out there vary between $5,000 and $10,000. New Haven is a little bit unique in that they've got an option, to provide up to $30,000 in homeowner support. But a $20,000 value to an employee, that's really going to move the needle. I mean, that's a lot of money to a nurse, a welder, a network engineer, somebody in their late 20s, early 30s. That's meaningful, even if it accrues over 5 years of time. Additionally, what's different about this is state involvement and public-private sector contribution. What's I think very unique is how this effort has quantified and estimated the revenue and profit value to the industry to attract those workers. What kind of top line revenue miss are we going to experience as an employer if we have these jobs that are unfilled? And I would echo what the analysis conservatively doesn't even take into account is shudder to think if Wisconsin can't fill those 2,100 nursing jobs. Think of the impact to health. Think of the downstream impacts to all sorts of ways that we care for our population. That's really going to be a problem. So this is unique in terms of value and in terms of funding source.
You mentioned something earlier about playing defense as well as offense. And on the defense side, I think the implication was keeping what we have here, so they don't leave. And that one of the areas where we're really good in this country is our education system. I mean, K-12, and there's lots of controversy all the time about distribution of aids and all kinds of things, but our K-12, our two-year college, our four-year university, our tech college system, you're all around the country. We've got to be one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, from all of those factors, healthcare, education, infrastructure, Wisconsin does very well, and I think that the perception outside of Wisconsin is that one of the reasons Wisconsin does well is the residents are paying for it in taxes. There is a view out there that Wisconsin is not a low tax state, right? If you look at the states around the country that are net importers of people, they tend to be places that are low tax for the individual. Places like Florida, places like Texas, where they're receiving large numbers of people. I believe, and I can attest, having grown up here, that if we can get people here, if we can get people to put down roots here, those quality of life attributes make a big difference, and they keep people here. I do think that it's worth a bit of a nudge to get people to make that jump to come into state, to overcome some of the perceptions that they might have about living here.
I like the Darren's nudge comment, because we lose a lot of recent college graduates to other states. So there are a lot of former Wisconsin residents starting young families, know about Wisconsin's quality of life and all the positives, and just need that nudge really to get them back. And I think that's where this can really pay dividends.